Black Artists, and African American Expressions is a title that our group gave a lot of thought to for this exhibition. And one reason is because there are so many artists of different interests. The Long Island Black Artists have been in existence since 1968, and our work consists of silk thread images, oils, portraits, sculptures, and unique cotton images, which are perfectly beautiful. This is a painting of my husband, who was a stand-up bass player, and he played with the orchestras in East Hampton and Virginia. When he was going to a rehearsal, I asked if I could take his picture. So he gave me his back to take. I call this painting the Master Bass Player, and it's about 18 by 24. My father was a long-distance truck driver, and he'd ride around town in a little blue pickup once he retired from the truck. And he was always carrying something in this pickup. And these were squash that you see there in the painting. He'd carry things around, and then we'd give them to friends as he stopped by their house. But this is acrylic, and you can continue on.
Rosa, that's a beautiful painting. It is
Oh,
really
thank
stunning.
you. Thank you.
Was your father, I'm sorry if you said this and I didn't hear you, was he a farmer?
No, he was not. He was the long-distance truck driver, like I said, and he drove out of Montauk, from Duryea Dock and Gosman's Dock. He'd take fish, lobsters, and so forth into the Bowery in East Hampton, in New York City. But once he retired from the truck, he then bought a little pickup, and he'd ride around town with his pickup. And as you can see with the baskets, he'd carry squash and different things in this.
Yeah. Do you work from photographs, or do you work from memory, or,
No.
or from life?
I work from photographs, mainly from photographs. Yes.
I think you really captured that feeling of midday sun and that.
I traveled to Dabney College in Clifton Forge, Virginia. I would pass this house in the mountains, and I loved the colorful mountains. I just thought they were beautiful. And the house was so interesting, and it was so unusually shaped. And the small buildings around it, that I called it the Allegheny Mountains painting. And I just enjoyed it very much. I love the colors. The colors were just wonderful. And then as you can see with the perspective and everything, with the buildings. Yeah.
What size is this painting?
It's an 18 by 24. Yes, 18 by 24.
I've actually hiked those Allegheny Mountains.
You did that was a big thing, is the hiking. I did too.
Not too well.
Yes, I did also. It ended up with a stick when you pull yourself.
Rosa, on that piece of wood of trunk in the foreground, is that a can on top of that?
No, that's just the way I have the color put in.
Oh.
It looks like it's a color.
Because it is.
Now, this is one that I call Golden Moments, because some of the petals are beginning to wilt. And and they are golden moments. We have them in our life. Next. Okay. This is a show on the green in Montauk, and 3 of my paintings were in this show. The first one is the bride, the Bahamian bride, which is up top, and it was taken in the Bahamas. The photo I took and then painted, as I said, before I do my paintings from photos. The next one, as you can see up at the top, at the very top is the sky. And this is the one that I call the early morning. And why I call it that is because we were on a trip. I was taking the youth on a trip to the city by bus. And we left early, and that's how I interpret the sky. And I saw it. The other that I did right below the early morning is anticipation. And I call that one anticipation because of the fact that there were 3 men fishing. And I call them barnacles. on the rocks down at Maidstone Park. So I took that photo of the painting, or the picture rather, and did the painting. And my little granddaughter, Alex, is standing in front of the stand there.
Does Alex live here?
Yes, she does. In fact, I got one of your T-shirts for her a few years ago. Now, after that, it was quite a while that I had a lapse, and I went back about, let's see, 19 to 20 years ago. I went to Dabney College, as I was telling you about, going across the mountains. I went to Dabney College. I majored in art there and also in education. And my major was art and education, as I said, and I found that I just enjoy it. So every time I take a picture or something like that, I always try to paint it.
So did you become an art teacher?
I did. I taught arts and crafts. Yes, I did. I taught at the Fair Fine Arts in Rockbridge in Virginia. I taught art at the Montauk Depot. Taught the children there. And at the center, the senior center, I taught the children there the arts and crafts. My family came here in, let's see, about 1935 from Virginia.
Right.
Yes, about 1935. In fact, my father came first. No, my mother came first. My mother came first. Then my father came. And through this, my mother's family was the Square family. And they eventually married, and so we've been here all that time. Yeah.
In the paintings you showed, I'm sorry to talk so much, but
Sure.
in the paintings you showed, you seem to have a preference for brown. Is that just the ones you showed, or you think you do have certain color preferences when you paint?
Can I tell you something? That's my favorite color.
Brown.
Because the children in school ask me, they say, Miss Jones, you always wear brown all the time. I say, it's my, they even mention it, and I say, that's my favorite color. I guess it's an earth color. Yeah. It's just funny when they asked it.
Rosa, what's the story behind the Bahamian Bride? I thought that was so beautiful.
Oh.
Did you go there?
Now, when my son got married, which is in 1980 something, he married a Bahamian girl because his father was Bahamian. So the wedding was going to be in Nassau. So I went around to all of his friends that were here, and he said, put little invitations in the door. So we took a plane down. There was about 10 or 12 of us that went down for the wedding, which is a big thing. That was a big thing for us. And while there, I took a photo of her. And then when I was in Virginia, I was away from the family. So all these things would come to me, like I look at someone and say, gee, I think I'll paint Doris, paint up Doris. And that's how it came about. Yeah.
But she's really related to you then.
That's my daughter-in-law.
Yeah.
In fact, she's in the bank.
I must say that in 1968, when the Long Island Black Artists was founded, I was not producing visual art. I had grown up from childhood as a poet, and I had published in magazines and anthologies. And it was only in the 70s when I had a crisis in my life, and I stopped writing poetry. And I guess the creative spirit had to come out in some way, and I turned to visual art and have stayed with it. But before I begin to show you that, I'll read you a poem from the 60s that I wrote. Okay. This poem is a poem I wrote for a friend of mine named Verta Mae Grosvenor. You might know her name from the 60s. She wrote a cookbook called Vibration Cooking. And this is there's a poem about collard greens. Greens, stretching out their arms, tumbling in the water, dancing, didn't we say dancing? Waving, didn't we say waving? Curling, holding the evening in their steaming folds. How they came to be loved, the greens Verta held close, leafy bouquet, we swallowed in the gentle night with its flying comets, the greens we drank in the limitless kitchen, eating seeds, eating centuries.
Have you gone back to writing?
What kind of root do I want to say? Ginger root. Ginger root. Ginger root. Okay, next. Was I started this is a fairly large acrylic painting that I started with the idea of velocity. That's all I had in my mind was velocity. But as the painting started to develop, this little figure, maybe you could see the eye, the circle in the eye in the center, and a line coming down and a wheel down the bottom. Figure came into the painting, and I got more inspired by the idea of these messengers that go around in New York City on their bicycles, and gradually these moons came into it. Involuntary, just intuitive kind of things, and so I decided to call that Night Messenger by the time it got finished. Okay.
What scale is
I studied printmaking with Ruth Leaf. I think she's taught about every printmaker on Long Island at some point or another, if they were interested in etching. And this started out as a, what did it start out as? I forget what I made the plate out of. I think I started the plate out with some kind of a white ground. But then I didn't like it when I finished it, because printmakers often change things, and things don't end up the way they started out. And gradually I decided to make it an oil on paper instead. And there's a face here in the left part, and it meant to me carnival man. Okay, next. I thought I would put in this collage because it shows you that I work in a lot of different forms. That's about all there is to that one.
Is that handmade paper in the center?
No, it's Japanese paper with the threads of paper going through it.
And what is that?
Different colored papers that I cut out and pieced on there.
And that image at the top looks like a natural, like a growth of something.
Yeah.
Finger painting.
I painted that up at the top, and then I cut it out and pasted it. One was a waterscape. It was done on the computer.
Oh, really? Boy, that doesn't look like it's computer generated. That's a real achievement.
I use Painter.
Oh,
I have Painter 8. I'm behind. Painter 10 just came out. I have to save up my money and get an upgrade. But this was Painter 8.
That's beautiful. Do you have any stories about these elements in here? I mean, the ones. It does seem very much like a landscape, and you have the sense of birds and.
This is a big etching. It's about twice the size of this, which is big for an etching. And I don't know, it just came to me to do it that way. It was impromptu. I guess you can tell I like Miro. It's hard to print. It's very hard to print because of all of the crossing lines. The ink gets caught in the lines.
You often have a horizon line in your pictures, in spite of the fact that they're very abstract. Is that intentional?
I do it with a feeling of being grounded, but I don't I don't think in my mind, oh, I'm going to put my ground in.
Right.
It just always happens that I'm grounded.
Mm-hmm.
The name of this is my day job at night.
What is your day job?
My day job is part-time, working part-time for an insurance company.
Oh, dear.
And I work there at night,
Oh, okay.
and that allowed me to do my paintings in the daytime.
Yeah.
And I wanted to use strokes, more like drawing strokes, incorporated into a painting. This is called 08. I think it was the first thing I ever did on Painter 8, so I called it 08. And
Very, very Gorky like.
I like Gorky too. Yeah. I don't know what to say about it except that.
Any thoughts about this?
I like the movement in it.
Movement, yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
There's the horizon again.
Yes, right.
Dances.
Yeah, it has a sculptural quality to it because it maybe because of that.
A further exploration of light working in layers. It was the name of it is Antibes. It has just suggestions of fish and seagull and a goblet. And a couple of fish down here and a seagull up there.
Is this, I'm having a hard time hearing, is this on the computer?
Yes, computer also, digital.
Beautiful, that's really layered, many,
Yeah.
very dense.
Yes, I'm getting denser and denser as I go along.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
Do you know how permanent your inks are when you make your prints?
There was some study where he's doing things for barns, and he's got this big stick, and the things go up to the ceiling. I said, oh, I could never do that.
Well, Monroe also did those.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Well, these are, I went out one morning, Jones Beach, to shoot with my camera, my new camera, and I ran across these images, and these are, I guess you would say, landscape photography. Oh, that's something.
People say.
But I was shooting this landscape at Jones Beach, and some places were more interesting than others. But I find some of them that work really well for me.
Nice.
Some of it looks black and white.
Yeah, well, that was like really early morning.
Oh.
Really early morning. And photography things catch your eye. And after that, they're just gone. But I was lucky to get some of these to photograph. But that's Jones Beach. And what I liked about it was the lighting and the shading and just the landscape itself. This is really unique for me because this color and a number of those colors are kind of hard to find.
Early morning or late?
Early morning.
Yeah,
Early
because the
morning.
sun is
Yeah.
coming up.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the lighting just really got to me there. Doesn't looks like anything, but that's a piece of wood.
Oh, wow.
And that's a piece of can. And that's another piece of wood.
Basically found objects?
Yes, this object here, sometimes you find something interesting. Has a funny shape or something unusual
Something
about them.
appeals to
Yeah.
you about it.
and like this piece. It's very simple, but I like those kind of things, and some of them don't work. Just a small piece of wood, but when you start to photograph it, you know, it's like it starts taking on a character. I like those things. I like that photograph.
Where do you live, Leslie?
Pardon me?
Where do you live?
I live here in Long Island. I live in Roosevelt,
Is that Nassau County?
Nassau County, yeah.
Do you live near the, you must live near the beach, but do you live right near the beach, or? Is,
I'm 10 minutes away.
I like the shadow.
That could work as a sculpture too.
Yeah.
Let's see what an oil on canvas. That's I called it the spinning bowl.
what size are these?
That's about 24 by 36. This is an interesting piece. Some paintings take longer than others. Well, this one you just kept working on. And when I finished, you know, I couldn't put it in a frame because it didn't fit in a frame. And I just had to find a way to make a good presentation of it. But I like doing a lot of work like this, more so than still lifes and landscape paintings.
Your still lifes are very impressionistic, it seems.
This is the show I had, and these are the paintings. And I found out that they were very adjective or very harsh, or they weren't calm or subtle or relaxed, you know, or laid back or easy. I found that they were kind of like very jittery, you know, very energetic, I should say. Well, not this one. How do you do that, or why do you do that? You know, it's like, it's relaxing, and I'm always surprised to see what develops. And high school, I had a very good high school. High school, they had paints, oil paints, and we were able to paint at university. Morgan State University is not an art school. I was a wrestler, and I got a scholarship down there. And there's no art, so I stayed 1 year, and then I was out. Oh, they called my mother a couple of times. Hey, come and get this kid. But after Morgan, I was looking for an art school. I went to the School of Visual Arts in Manhattan. I spent 4 years there. I got my bachelor's of fine arts.
That's a
And
good
then
school.
I spent another year art education. So when I finished school, I started teaching at elementary school. That was like arts and crafts.
Not for you.
Not for me. Not for me. And I was just wondering where my work was going to go. And right now, I'm showing with Long Island Black Artists Association. And we're all over the place. And got one at Malloy College, and also showing at Hempstead Town Hall. So I have pieces there.
Throughout the years I've painted. When I was much younger in junior high school, I won a medal for painting, and thought nothing of it then. Studied accounting, went to college, Queens College, studied accounting, worked in accounting, and then after I retired, I volunteered at the local school. And fortunately, they hired me to work in the office. But all along, I've been, in the summertime, I've been traveling back and forth to France. I saw an ad in the paper, and the ad said 6 weeks in France in Aix-en-Provence. That's in the southern part of France. And I didn't know, I had no friends that was interested in France. Something about that that ad told me I need to be there for 6 weeks in the summer. Well, oddly enough, now I look back in my life, and I remember when I was in high school, my mother used to get the daily newspaper. By then it was like 1 or 2 cents. And she'd read the papers, because in those days we were all poor and poverty-stricken. And she says, "Oh, I'm going to call you Frenchie. You're petite." And petite, and she read all about the French women in the newspaper. And the perfumes and the designers and the lace and all of that. So she called me Frenchie. And I had this name, it was in my unconscious, but I never picked up on it. Then after I retired, I saw this ad, as I said. I took that course in France. And then later on, I met a friend. He was a doctor. In my pursuit, I figured out that the reason I'm going here, one of the reasons could be that I could go back to those 20s and 30s and see where they lived and what captivated them and what did they see and what did they do, how the people were and so on. And in doing that, I was fascinated by, when I got off the plane, I was just fascinated by Notre Dame and the buildings and the architecture. But what I have today here is not very much of what I did in France. I didn't bring those slides. I didn't know those were. But I'd like to pass around some of the things, and if you have any questions about, this is a painting that I did off Paris, one of the suburbs in Paris. This is the southern France. Just keep passing it around and then circle it back.
Did you feel you were treated differently there than you were treated in your own home country?
Well, not really. I just thought that that they were gracious to me, and a lot of times they would, if I didn't know where this place was, they'd walk me and take me to the places where I needed to go. Went to the jazz festival. Most of the people were gracious and kind to me. I didn't speak but very little French, and they were warm. I just went and sometimes I went alone.
But if you went to the jazz festival, you saw, was that around Nice?
Yeah.
You saw the statue they had there of Ronald Hampton?
No, I didn't see that. Well, I went at night.
Janet?
Some of these are paintings from my window in France. There's Martin Luther King.
Yeah, Martin.
You have an incredible sense of
Color.
composition.
It's color, I think.
Color, but also your compositions are so complex and solid.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
I'm fascinated by color. I tell you, I think there's nothing there's nothing better to me. Brings me joy, and I hope it brings other people joy.